So thanks for coming early. I have a survey which I always try and trick people into filling out. It's not related to this talk particularly, but that should not stop you from filling out this survey. If you have any thoughts about testing Spark, one of these days, it'd be really nice to make testing Spark not a trash fire, and I can only do that with your help. But this talk is about why you need to be reviewing open source code. I'm Holden. I had a co-presenter, but unfortunately she ended up in London, so she's not with me, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. If anyone wants the slides, this is a bit.ly link, which has at least a 75% chance of taking you to a blog post where the slides will end up eventually after they cut off the alcohol tonight at the party. Gris couldn't make it. She did some of the analytics that I'm going to show here, and we're going to do another version of this at BBuzz with a slightly different take on some of the same data. I'm Holden. My preferred pronouns are she or her. I'm a developer advocate at Google. I'm on the Spark PMC, and I contribute to a lot of other projects. And in doing so, I have a lot of opinions about why we need to review open source code. But that being said, I'm not speaking as a member of the Spark PMC. These are my own personal views. I work at Google, but I've been at a whole bunch of other places. They all paid me money and were very nice people. I'm a co-author of 2 books on Spark. If you don't own the second one, High Performance Spark, I got a much better royalty deal on that one. And you should buy several copies of it. Learning Spark, whatever, I don't care. I don't make money on that. You can follow me on Twitter. If you're the kind of people who are interested in code reviews, I have code review live streams. We're going to talk about those a little bit. And I also collect feedback on my talks. If you have sort of opinions about what I could do to make this talk better or other talks that I do better in the future, please, let me know. The only thing that I don't really care for is comments on my style, because that's probably not going to change. Cool. In addition to who I am professionally, I'm trans, queer, Canadian, in America on a work visa that expires in April, and part of the leather community. And this is, not directly related to open source, although certainly being from Canada, you might see some more sort of communal aspects than maybe being raised in America. But I think it's important for us in open source communities to try and build diverse communities. And one of the things that we need to do that is talk about where we're all from and what our backgrounds are. And if when we talk about our backgrounds, we realize that we're all from the same background, that's maybe a sign that we need to work on improving our communities. And also, Heather has this wonderful collection of Scala Pride logos, and you can buy T-shirts of these. They are quite lovely. I own one, I think, actually 2, and I'll wear one tomorrow. This is the website if anyone wants to buy one of those lovely T-shirts. And actually, the dress that I'm wearing is not that, but it is valid Spark code. It computes pi unnecessarily on a distributed system. Very, very lovely. Okay, I'm going to talk about what you can get from participating in open source code reviews, why the community needs your help reviewing open source code, how to go about doing this, and then I'll probably try and put in a really quick Apache Spark code review at the very last minute. We'll review a PR together, and maybe you'll find some features that we can let the original author know about together. Or maybe, we'll just be able to say, looks good to me. And that's pretty fun too. Okay, so I'm hoping you're nice people. You're not laughing at my mediocre jokes though, so I don't know. Maybe you want to grow your career. Maybe you just want to make open source less terrible, and that's why you're here. Is anyone here for another reason? No. Okay, 0 people. How many people are here because they want to make open source slightly more sustainable? Okay, so not everyone is asleep. That's lovely. Good, good. Okay, so this is a picture of a cat. There will be more of these. Okay. Okay, this is a picture of Mermaid School. And this is definitely for sure related to open source. Because I expensed Mermaid School on my corporate credit card. And my boss was like, Holden, this better have a good reason. And I was like, yes, do not worry, boss. Mermaid School is totally related to my job. And open source code reviews are like Mermaid School. They help you grow your skills, maybe in ways that you weren't necessarily expecting, right? I didn't expect to become a slightly better swimmer by going to Mermaid School. You know, that's kind of a little bit of a surprise. They build on your existing skills, so we can take our existing knowledge of swimming or our existing knowledge of Scala and apply them in different ways. You get better with time, but you just need to start at some point, right? If you're not just going to put on a mermaid tail and get in the pool, you're just never going to become a mermaid, right? And the same thing is true for open source code reviews. And sometimes people will give you pushback and not want to pay your expense report from Mermaid School. Or they'll be like, hey, what's this like did open source code reviews on Friday thing? Like that doesn't sound like you did anything for me. And in both of those situations, coffee makes it better, and telling your boss too much information is never gone well for me. But shout out to my boss for paying 66% of Mermaid School and paying for my open source code reviews. He did take that expense report. Not 100%, but you know, thank you. I really hope he never watches my talks. Okay. So why does the community need you? So a lot of projects suffer from maintainer burnout. If we look at the Spark project, there's all kinds of people who can commit code in theory. And in practice, from this list of about 60 people, we see maybe half of them remain active. And a lot of them have just been like, I'm going to go and do something else now. You know, I've worked on this problem for so long, it's not fun for me anymore. And the other one is reviewing code is less fun. And so we have this thing where we essentially promote people in open source projects, and just like promoting people in the real life, we tend to take their skills, you know, writing code, and then ask them to do something different and just assume these skills are going to translate and not provide any support. And that goes as well as promoting engineers to managers. And it often tends to be less fun, right? We got into this because we wanted to write code, and now my job is reviewing a lot of code, right? Who wakes up in the morning and is like, I'm going to check out all of the open pull requests on my favorite open source project? Ooh, okay. I want to trick the three of you into coming to my open source projects, but that's lovely. And some projects are limited by reviewers. So even in the situations where we don't have burnout, right, we can get into the situation where our projects become really, really popular. All kinds of people are coming to try and help us, but then we don't have the time to figure out which of these things are good and which of them are bad, right? There's just too many changes being requested at the same time. And the other one is representing the user. I've been in a lot of sort of discussions on GitHub, one could say, where there's really great technical insight, it's really good, but then, you know, someone will eventually come and be like, so how are they going to use this? I don't follow. This looks like a really interesting solution, but what was the problem? And I'm sure we'd never have that happen in the Scala community, but, you know, I think having people that can represent the users of the libraries present and participating in the review can help ensure that the things that we build are actually useful to you. Some of the situations in one of the projects that I work on, we literally built an API that was designed to be called from Java that could not be called from Java. But it was really beautiful. So that counted for something. But if we'd had a Java user there, they probably would have been like, I can't pass you a class tag. What? No, what's this? I don't know. Anyways, okay. So here are a bunch of open source projects without labels. And we're only going to label the healthy ones so that the people in the unhealthy ones don't yell at me. So please don't recreate this analysis. So we can say hey, people make pull requests, and then they open PRs, and sometimes these PRs get merged. And we could say that a project is perhaps not super healthy if it's making a lot of PRs that are just getting closed, right? That might be not the sign of the healthiest community. I'm not saying that we have to accept every pull request that comes our way. I'm just saying when the ratio starts to look a little bit like that blue dot, or that, oh, there's two blue dots. Okay, the bad blue dot, the one over there. Yeah, okay, cool. It might be sad. Here's some happy projects. Happy project, happy project, happy project, happy project. Very happy project? No, not so happy project. Okay, never mind, we'll skip that one. Okay, cool. So how do we get into this situation? So I think a lot of the times we get into the situation because the rate of inbound pull requests and the rate of review comments, it looks like this. Does anyone want to guess which line is which? Oh, I labeled the graph. This might not be such a hard guess. But the blue line, which is bigger, is the number of pull requests we're receiving. And this is not just Spark, this is like all projects on GitHub for the data that I managed to get my little hands on. And then we see that the number of, review comments is a lot smaller, right? And that can be kind of disappointing, right? Because maybe you get really excited, you make a pull request to a project, you're like, I fixed my bug, I'm gonna help save the world, or at the very least help people click on ads more efficiently. I live in San Francisco, so those two are the same thing. And then no one comments on your pull request, and who will click on those ads for you? That's truly sad. So, okay, and then we could look at Scala-ish projects. This is kind of hacky extraction of what Scala projects are. This graph was made this morning. But we can see we have sort of similar patterns, and we can still see the sadness that happens. There's probably some interesting correlations, but there's still more PRs than there are reviews being left, and that's maybe a little sad. And then if we look at distinct user counts, we can see that it looks pretty similar. And I was honestly hoping for a slightly different result here. I was hoping that the red line would be even lower than it is here, but I figured I should show you it because it disagrees with what I thought it would be. In the Spark project, the red line is really, really low, but in the other Scala projects, it's not nearly as unhealthy as Spark, so go team. Okay, but still not healthy, right? We would want these to be more balanced, right? 30-to-1 ratio is kind of unhappy. Okay, so that's why the community needs you. What benefit can you get from doing these things? So you can grow your skills in some ways that we'll look at. You can see the world of open source. It's, yeah. And if you do it enough, you can see the real world, too. They let you outside. Arguably, you can get faster recognition. And to anyone who's contributed code to Spark, I'm really sorry. I have no idea who you are, right? But for the reviewers, I know them because I see them again and again, and it's a lot easier to learn if a reviewer's judgment is like really, really solid, because I'm like, yeah, I would make the same call as that person, or I had that same question. And they can review so many more PRs than they could create, well, good PRs. Don't create 200 bad PRs into a project just to raise your name. That's not going to help. And you get this deeper integration into the community, right? You tend to be interacting with other people who are also involved in deciding the direction of the code, right? Where the project is going. And you can also time box sort of how much time you're going to spend on your open source activity. How many people here have like 40 hours a week to spend on open source? Yeah, cool. So not a lot of students, and that's good. And so I think one of the things is like, I just honestly don't have enough time to make a large number of PRs anymore, right? Like, I can make the PRs for the things that I really care about, but one of the things that I value in my life is being able to set aside, small amounts of time and dedicate them to improving open source projects. So how do we see more of the world? So starter issues often only touch narrow parts of the code. If we're doing a code review, though, it can cover a lot more of the code, and it's a lot easier to dig in because we're seeing what the proposed changes are, along with descriptions of what these changes are. And there's only so many hours in the day that we could spend making changes to the code compared to spending those same hours figuring out what's going on while looking at someone else's proposal. And it gives you a better sort of holistic picture of where the project is going. And, people will still yell at you on the internet, but, at the very least, they won't be yelling at you about your code. They'll be yelling at you about your decisions about someone else's code. So that feels slightly less detached. That's good. Okay. So maybe we'll get faster recognition from the community. Reviewers really stand out in projects with large numbers of contributors, and it allows you to work with more people. And it's easier to control your time, right? How many people here have tried to contribute a pull request to a really large project? Okay, keep your hand up if that took less or equal time as you expected. Okay, yeah. And so this is okay. There was like one person who was like maybe on the fence about that. And the thing with making a pull request is wonderful reviewers will come to me with all of these suggestions of how to improve my code, and they'll be like, oh, damn it, I need to go do my day job now. I guess I'll get back to this on next Tuesday. But then I feel obliged to come back to it and keep updating it. And if I don't do it, it's going to stall. It's not going to move forward. But if I come and I can provide someone with some, feedback on how their code can move forward more quickly, I don't have to close that loop all the time, right? I can leave a suggestion, and then it's up to them whether or not they want to listen to it or not. Yeah, and you tend to be less frequently encountering the one more bug situation where you're like, my code almost works. I'll just drink another cup of coffee and everything will be fine. And then it's 6 a.m., right? Like, you find yourself doing that with a code review. Stop. It's not gonna. No, don't. Okay. And yeah, it's not just like random projects. It tends to be the larger successful projects which need help with reviewers. And we can see here the Apache Arrow project, which is not Spark, but it's another one. Wes McKinney is probably the creator of it, we could say, co-creator or whatever. And we can see that it's rapidly becoming a critical dependency, blah, blah, blah. And we are in quite serious need of more project maintainers. And this is a really common thing, right? Like, people are really excited about this project, but no one's stepping up to review the code because it's not fun. So we can trick ourselves and tell ourselves that it's going to be fun for all of those reasons. Yay! Okay. How many of you have experience doing code reviews of any sort? Yay! That's lovely. Keep your hands up if you have experience with open source pull requests reviews as a reviewer. Okay, that's a good number, but not all of you. So if you've done pull request reviews internally or code reviews internally, that's great. If you're going to start doing open source code reviews, there are some things to keep in mind. You probably don't know these people. You may have less shared assumptions. And if you say things that are accidentally mean, it's a lot harder to go to someone and be like, I'm really sorry. What I meant to say is that generator looks slow, not you're a terrible person. Can I buy you a cup of coffee, right? Because they'll be like, no, I'm in Europe and you're in San Francisco. Also, you're strange and from the internet. I don't want to work with you. Right, okay. Sometimes strangers plus the internet become assholes. So it's true you might not be the person who's like leaving hurtful pull request review comments by accident. Maybe you put your heart and soul into this. You leave really thoughtful, really well thought out comments, and then you get back something that I don't want to repeat on stage, but it rhymes with, I don't know what rhymes with fuck. Okay, well, it rhymes with yuck. Yeah. That's not going to get edited, is it? No, well, whatever. My boss doesn't watch my talks. It's okay. And so hopefully the people that you work with in your company aren't going to be assholes as much as strangers on the internet. And if they are, you should find a new job. But this is one of the things that you're going to have to prepare yourself for, is that unfortunately you might meet some of these wonderful people. And alternatively, you might just have very different goals and visions for the project, right? And that's totally okay. If you're new, you're probably not going to be able to steer it as much as you want, but you can probably steer it more by being the person who's making suggestions on people's proposed changes than proposing the changes, or at least that's my experience. Okay, if you want to watch videos of me sitting underneath a bed in San Francisco, because office space is really expensive, doing open source pull request reviews live and swearing a lot, because no one watches, or sorry, not no one. My boss definitely does not watch those. You can go to this fine URL here, and you can watch some of those. And it's super fun. Okay, right. And if you're new to reviewing, you can bring so much special value to a project. You can, that was not the special value I was hoping for. I'm going to just avoid touching my computer. Okay, you can see the weird things that have just been, we've always done it this way. Or like, of course we start the Python and then the JVM and connect them with the Unix socket. What do you mean that's not normal, right? Like, you can be like, hi, and you know, maybe the onion really does need to be there. Sometimes we really do need to connect Python to the JVM because my life is full of sadness. But sometimes we don't need to connect Python to the JVM, and you can be the person who can like point this out to someone and just remove that blind spot. And this is really awesome. You can also do a much better job of like being like, hey, this thing which you think is completely intuitive, it's not. I have no idea what you're doing here, right? And when you point that out as a newcomer, it can also be much less threatening, right? If you're pointing this out to someone else who is also new to contributing, it's like you're a pair. You're like buddies, yay! But like sometimes, if you like are working with someone who's been on a project for a really, really long time, you're like, oh my God, they're so scary. They're so scary. They hate my code. I'm terrible. But if you have like another new person showing up and helping review, it's like, oh no, it's cool. We're in this together, and you can take advantage of this and be less intimidating. I encourage you, please be less intimidating. Okay, yeah. Oh, right, and yeah, you don't have the same assumptions. Sometimes this is how we find out security bugs. Someone comes in, they take a look at a thing, and they're like, I'm pretty sure you base64 encoded that and wrote it out to a file. I'm pretty sure that was called password.txt. I have some questions, and then you'll be like, oh, yeah. And so you'll look at a library, and you can like actually spend the time to go and figure it out because it's the right thing to do, but everyone else is just blind to that because it's, you know, what they've always done. So you should pick a project, get familiar with the tools, and find a PR to review. So picking a project works a lot better if it's in the same language that you already understand. Trying to learn a project by trying to learn a programming language by doing code reviews in that language does not work well, in my experience. And I say this as both someone who's been doing that and on the receiving end of that. Neither of those experiences is good. So try and pick a project where you know the programming language at least a little bit. That being said, we're at a Scala conference, so there is several options for you. Ideally, one which needs review help, right? So if you're looking at a project and it's got, you know, 3 pull requests and they're all actively commented on, maybe they got this, you know, pick another one. Oh yeah, and pick something with less assholes. Right, check the mailing list, see if there's a code of conduct, see if anyone's had a unexpected gardening leave, or that joke did not translate. That refers to when someone is put on suspension and takes a leave from a project. It's essentially the alternative to being fired. But yeah, so pick a project that looks happy and friendly people. This is a tool from Mermaid School, and it's really important if you're not so good at not breathing through your nose. So you can put this on your nose so that you don't get a bunch of water up your nose when you're flipping around in circles. And just like in Mermaid School, yeah, you need to get familiar with the project's tools, right? So like if I just showed you this and was like, okay, cool, go have fun at Mermaid School, you might be like, I don't know, Mermaid School is something different. Right? But yeah, okay, so we need to like look at some of the other pull requests. Don't just jump in and be like, hey, what's up? Where's the CI system? Like, put some time into investigating what's going on. The same things you would do as if you were going to start making pull requests to it. Git blame, git log, all of those things. Reading the mailing list to make sure they're not assholes, really good. Figuring out how to build a pull request from the branch. Yeah, CI systems are lovely, but like actually being able to verify that something works as intended locally, as opposed to just depending on the CI is a good thing. Get familiar with their communication style. And yeah, for example, I wouldn't pick the Linux kernel as a place to try this. or some other projects. I think smaller PRs are better. If you can find something that you care about, that's even better, because then you can be like, hey, what's up? This looks really close to solving my problem, but maybe we could do X, right? And so like one of the things I care about is like Python packaging for Java projects, because I made some interesting life choices early in my career, and now every 6 days I must create a new virtual environment. If you don't get that joke, that's good. And it's often easier to be one of the earlier reviewers. So if you look at a pull request and it's got like 6 reviewers, maybe they got it. Maybe not, definitely feel free to take a look. But I would probably pick something with less people. Doing your first review, there are all kinds of like things that you can do. And I really encourage you to like soften your language, which is a thing that I still practice. And this is very useful when you're working with people who don't know you yet, and also when you are legitimately uncertain of what's going on, right? Sometimes, when we're new to a project, we're like, I think this is what you want to do. Is this really what you want to do? And that's actually really useful, because they can come back and be like, no, that's not what I want to do. We should clarify this. You can also read the style guide and do style checking. You can also check to make sure that it works on your platform. There's someone out there who really cares about ARM64, and they show up a lot to tell us that things don't work on ARM64. And that provides value, because I'm not going to do that. I don't. I have an Intel computer. It's okay. Nowadays, actually, who knows? But it's not so bad, right? And also, if you have an IDE, I find I tend to work in Emacs because, once again, poor life choices. But when I work with other people who are new to a project, they tend to use jump to definition and really fancy things in like VS Code, and they seem to do a lot better with that compared to my like jump to file in Git tree. Yeah. Okay. Please communicate carefully. Telling people their code sucks, it might be true, but you can do so much better, right? We can tell them, hey, I really appreciate the thought that you put into this. It's a really great first step. I think the performance has some opportunities for improvement, right? And that sounds like what my boss told me in our last performance review cycle. And it didn't suck until like I thought it through and I was like, oh shit, he's telling me I'm bad at my job, right? But people won't think it through always, so that's good. You don't know how much time someone's put in, right? Like, especially if you're reviewing pull requests from other new people, maybe this has been a week's worth of work and you're gonna tell them that it's all bad. So like, please be kind. And also, it's okay for this to be scary. I remember starting doing pull request reviews and being like, oh my God, these people are making all of these changes. They must know so much more than I do. But I don't think I can use the software like this, but I don't know. This is really terrifying. And it's okay to be scared. Whatever. I drink. Whatever you do to cope with that is fine. I recommend if you do write your pull request reviews while drinking, submit them the following day while sober. GitHub has really wonderful features for this. If you're using a review board, whatever. And also remember, it's okay for people to be wrong on the internet. And it's okay for projects to choose suboptimal things. You don't have to fix everything. If someone's too painful for you to work with, just move on and let someone else deal with them. Cool, yeah, phrasing matters a lot. Okay, so I was going to try and do a live Apache Spark code review because that seemed like a good way to kill, I think, time. Yes. And so does anyone want me to do it in a project other than Apache Spark? Thank God. Okay, cool. Because I can, but like as it's a lot easier. Okay, I'm going to do this live. It's also going to go on the internet, which is filled with cheese. Okay. Still good. Everything's fine. Okay, cool. So hopefully this works, and we're going to do a live pull request review. Okay, cool. And then we're going to close this. And I'm going to go to my good friend, spark-prs.appspot.com, which is some really high quality Python code, which will one day have to be updated to Python 3, which is very fitting for the theme of this conference. I think realistically, actually, this will just get stuck behind an increasingly restrictive web proxy, and then we'll just never update any of the security settings on it. Go team. Anyways, so this gives us a view of the pull requests coming into Spark. I've sorted it by who's commented on these pull requests, because I'm looking for things where people aren't involved. But we could also go ahead and say, hey, what's up? I'm interested in seeing pull requests that are relatively up to date. And then we could see someone's just proposed a 1,400 line change to do adaptive execution in Spark SQL. We're probably not going to get through that one in 10 minutes, but it sounds really exciting. Although, okay, this one here, new, no commenters, and convert file path to URI and binary file data source. I mean, and issue type bug. This doesn't look so bad. Maybe let's pick this one. I actually did pre-look at some other pull requests, so if I have nothing to say about this one, I got some other ones and I can pretend, except for the fact I told you my plan. But yeah, okay. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so here's our proposal. Okay, and it was tested with unit tests. That's nice. Oh, someone did leave a comment on it 7 minutes ago, but I mean it's okay. So yeah, this magic pile of Python code predates GitHub having a push API and instead does polling. So it is sometimes slightly out of date, but it's still good. It gives us a nice thing. Okay. Oh, and ignore that thing about my job that I'm ignoring. Okay. So okay, we changed the type that we've asked them for here. Wait, what? Did we just change the? Oh my God. Okay. Okay, file scan RDD. Okay, so this is still a string. We're not actually taking a Java URI object. We're converting it inside of here. That looks like a thing. It's not necessarily bad. Okay, sure. Support characters and file name that require URL encoding. Okay, this tells us why they were actually doing this. So that's cool. And oh, now we can load files with spaces. Very exciting. And frequently does not work in Spark because software is hard. Okay. So let's take a look at this unit test. So they're going to make a file. They're going to write 1, 2, 3 into it. Very exciting. And then we're going to read it. We don't close the file? I wonder if there's a race condition here. Let me go look up Java file write. Do I have to close this? Where's the Oracle ones? I don't want to depend on Stack Overflow. Okay, let's Java 7. That's the best Java. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and this returns a path. Do I have to white space to a file? Oh, okay, let me zoom in because I can't even read that. Let's see here. Okay. So we create a. It does?
Third line.
Nice. Okay, cool. So that's great. So that's fine. Okay, that's good. So that's cool. Now we're going to go ahead and do Spark read format binary file load dir.getPath. Okay, and so our dir is come with temp dir, and that's a collect. I mean, yeah, okay, so that looks fine. Actually, this looks like it's a pretty fine pull request. What? Yeah, so I guess the assertion, thank you. We could assert that we actually get these bytes back as a totally, that would be a good thing that we could do to improve this. I mean, I think, let's, yeah, maybe it would be good to assert that we get the bytes back, just in case. Let's see here. Yeah, just in case it's skipping the files with space or something. Also, wait, this isn't actually gonna, is this gonna do? No, this isn't actually gonna test what, how? I don't think this is gonna test it at all. Okay, cool. Yay, okay, I'm excited, sorry, I'm happy. Okay, cool. So the thing that we're testing is nominally that the dir get path is fine, but we only have a space in the file name, right? So let's go take a look at the interface that we changed. Which one did we change here? What's this? Case class partition file. Okay, yeah. So here's what I would do here. Is it okay that we only have the space in the file name, or do we need it in the path we're providing to trigger Spark 2830? And so that's just like, I mean, I'm not sure, and I could spend like a lot of time tracing that code to figure it out, but I don't really want to. So I'm just going to ask a question, and then they can clarify that, like, yeah, no, it's fine. Or they'll be like, oh, yeah, oops, I'll add a space to with temp dir, which would actually be really annoying. We'll have to refactor a utils function here to allow us to specify temp dirs to have spaces inside of it. But OK, yeah, cool. Does anyone else have anything else they want to suggest? I mean, yeah.
Touching something. Well, it's not only touching the binary file format. It's touching the partition file. But yeah, I don't think the behavior is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Oh, sure. OK, so yeah, sorry. The point is that this is touching more than just the binary file format. Maybe this test belongs somewhere else, I think, would be how I would phrase it. Yeah, change seems to impact not just the binary file format. Maybe this belongs in one of our root data source tests. What do you think? As you can see, very weaselly. Which is just like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but okay. Anyone else want to know? Okay. Oh, damn it. This is the downside of picking the freshest PRs. Well, let's hit refresh and see what happens. So the comment was that they've already made a commit. What did they change? Oh, they added an assertion. Damn it. So close, so close. Okay, so this maybe illustrates that, yeah, maybe we should wait for a pull request, which is like an hour old, so they're not actively pushing changes to it right now. But we can leave this part here. That comment's still reasonable. And the comment about like where the test should live is also probably still reasonable. Oh, actually, but the assertion, well, let's see here. Well, yeah. I mean, we could maybe make this better because we call first, and we could instead assert that we're getting one entry back first, and it would be a little bit clearer if it fails, but like, that would be kind of pedantic, so whatever.
Does the URI constructor also throw exceptions if it's malformed or something?
Oh, probably. Yeah, we could test the URI constructor if exceptions are bubbling up. But I think it's
Does it do exception to maybe documents?
yeah. Let's go take a look at what it says it's going to do when it fails here. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Maybe add a comment here that we, for past invalid URI, optional. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, and that's just, that's the like, hey, since like, for me, when I leave that, it's trying to say like, ooh, this is like a small change that we could make, and if we didn't have any other changes to make, whatever, we'd just merge it. But since we probably should consider some of the other things here as well, maybe you could make this change if you felt like it. Which is, you know, once again, very, very waffly, but for a pull request that's happening, review that's happening in like under 10 minutes, I want to be as waffly as I can. Or if I was working on a new project, I would also want to be pretty waffly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this review. Thanks for that's whatever. Thanks for this proposal. Good to support spaces. Do we want to maybe support UTF-8 and or have tests for supporting fancy things? Like, let me go get a snowman. Snowman emoji. If you don't have fun doing your job, why bother showing up? Okay. Okay. Well, at least people found the snowman entertaining. Okay, and yeah, okay, sounds good. And we can see actually it left our outdated pull request comment already. That's weird. We can pretend that we were indirectly sent vibes through the universe to cause them to add an assertion. So that's good. Cool. I think I'm near time, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I would be remiss if I did not try and get you to buy more things that you don't need, because I am currently living in America. All right, so YouTube channel, remember to like and subscribe, something. All right, here's a bunch of blog posts about good things that you can do while you're doing pull request reviews. Most of them are focused on how to do good pull request reviews inside of your company. And so occasionally they suggest things like walking over and talking to someone, and that might be challenging to do depending on your travel budget and or the comfortability of other people of doing pull request reviews in an airport lounge. I would be remiss if I did not try and get you to buy my book again. Please buy this. It is unrelated, but that should not stop you. And if you're interested in learning more about how to teach children distributed computing, you should go to distributedcomputingforkids.com. This is actually not a joke, unlike everything else. And you can sign up for the mailing list, give me your email address, and I will not spam you because you all are in Europe, and you have laws. Okay. So I think it's time for like food and drinking, or do we have time for a question?
questions we can have because...
Okay.
Okay, because before the questions, there is a very important announcement. It's like we have 3 buses who are going from the garden level to the Ushi Museum to have a dinner, which is very important, right? So remember that it is at 6:45, at 7, and at 7:15, and after it's your problem. So I think for now we can take question if you have
So
some.
she's local, so she calls it the Ushi Museum. For the international people, it's called the Olympic Museum. And if you don't go there, shame on you. No, I just want to see by the raise of your hands to count how many people are going to this dinner. This is perfect. And how many of you actually registered for this dinner? So we are going to have problems with the food. You're all welcomed, so you can go there. But yeah, we ordered probably a little bit less than as many people as... So anyway, the first bus is going in 15 minutes. So if you want to have some questions, you have time, okay?
So who has a question? Just raise your hand and I run to you. Or he runs.
Hi, did you need to register as a contributor or somehow get in the community, or you just start doing that from GitHub?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Spark just does GitHub pull request reviews, so you can just do it on GitHub. There are some projects where they use separate review tools, and you have to register to use them. I think Go is the one which comes to mind. It doesn't hurt to email the dev list and say hi, what's up, first, just so that people know you're around. But you certainly don't have to.
You said you discourage reviewing as a way to learn a language. What do you think about contributing as a way to learn a language?
I think it's okay. I've certainly learned many programming languages while contributing code. If you want to see really bad Scala code, you can go look at my early Spark Scala code. And if you want to see moderately bad Scala code, you can look at my current Spark Scala code. I think contributing is a great way to learn a new language. Doing is probably a very good way to learn a language. I think reviewing is harder to learn a new language, though. But I mean, everyone's learning habits are different.
After how many comments during one code review, you decide that it's all a mess and it should be all rewritten, and what do you do then?
That's a really lovely question, because that does happen from time to time. Sometimes you'll be like, well, we should rewrite this, and we should rewrite this, and maybe it would just be faster if I did this. And I encourage you not to give in to that habit. It indeed might be faster to just rewrite it all yourself. And if you need to get a release out, or it's a security issue, or something that's very, very important, okay, use your judgment. But I think the act of working with someone else, you can treat it like in a way like working with an intern. If you just rewrite all of the code that an intern gives you, you're not going to learn how to teach people, and also the intern is not going to learn how to do this task. Not that random strangers on the internet are interns, but I find having that mindset helps me. We're both there to learn from each other. But at some point, yeah, you just go thank you for finding this issue and providing a proof of concept. How do you feel if maybe we take it from here? And those are in the situations where it's like, we really need this in this release, or I really need this for what I'm doing, and I can't wait for the other person. But I try and not do it.
In starting to review code in other code bases where you're not let's say, an official maintainer, did you ever encounter a maintainer team that did not take it well, that someone external would start reviewing code?
That's a really great question. So I personally have not dealt with that. I've definitely done reviews in Apache Airflow and random projects where it's just I had submitted one pull request and it was fixing docs.md. And people were like, hey, what's up? Welcome. Part of that is trying to pick places that are friendly and welcoming to newcomers. And if you find pushback from trying to help people with reviews, it's not worth it. Just, there are many many open source projects on GitHub. Go and pick something else.
Don't you think there should be
Where
some
is this
kind?
question? Oh, cool. Okay.
Sorry. Don't you think there should be some kind of mentoring? Well, at least some kind of referent people that you should be as a reviewer related to, in order to, I mean, most of the projects where I started reviewing code, at one point or another, well, the issue is stuck.
Yeah.
And as a reviewer, it's frustrating as well, because you think it's good, but you don't have the power to do anything else. So most of the time, I try to find like the most usual people that in this part of code is like knowledgeable enough to merge the merge request. But I've never seen an open source project where this kind of responsibilities were precisely seen for core committers.
I agree. So in the Apache Software Foundation, there's a guide on mentoring, and the guide is to do. Maybe someday someone will write it. But I think one of the benefits that you can provide as someone who's reviewing code and doing a first pass is, to a degree, you can lend your credibility to this other person. If you really think it's good, then you go and you find the people who commit things, and you can do this with git blame, git log, and looking on GitHub to see who is committing with who, and you ping them and you try and help get this unstuck. And that is a lot of work, unfortunately. For one of the things that in the Spark project, and it's certainly not perfect, Spark has a lot of opportunities for improvement in our community management. Thank you, yes. But one of the things that I find useful is that we can see here, there's these little tiny pictures of the people who have reviewed PRs, and not all of those people are committers, but as myself as a committer, there are people who I trust, and when I see them as a commenter with the little green blocks around their name, which means they said, yeah, I go and I click on it, and because I know that it's not going to be as much work for me to commit their code, right? Like, it's going to be fine. Like, I'll do a second pass, of course, because one day I want to be able to nominate this other person to also become a committer. So I can't just say, yeah, I just commit everything they send me, but it's informal structure, I would say, in the Spark project. And I think in many other projects, those informal structures exist, but certainly making those structures formal could be greatly beneficial, but I don't know anyone who's bothered, because people are a lot harder than software. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So no other question, right?
Yeah, no, it's time to go get food.
Yeah, and so in 10 minutes, the first bus is coming. So, yeah.
Thank you. Ooh.